Is Ben Davison the new Shane Mcguigan? That is the question I'm asking you guys right now in this video. Go and have a watch of this interview here on Boxing Social with Ben Davison, where he opens up about his role as a trainer. He opens up about his background as a trainer, handling Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, etc. And tell me what you think, because I think he came across as quite sharp, as a guy who understands the mental side of boxing. Because one of the things he says in this interview is that it's not just about getting Tyson Fury back to being physically fit. It's also getting him back to the right mental state. You know, getting his confidence back to where it needs to be before they step him up and put him in there with somebody who actually poses a serious threat. He said, you can spar as many rounds as you want in the gym against top quality sparring, but when you get in the ring under the big lights in front of the crowd, there's a different type of mental pressure. And is Tyson Fury ready again to face that kind of mental pressure? And that's what the first fight back was all about, is getting him in that atmosphere again and getting him to perform under the lights again. Yeah, it's different in the gym than it is under the lights. So, yeah, from what I saw of him in this interview, he showed a pretty good understanding of the mental side of boxing and how he's going to need to prepare Tyson Fury mentally during his comeback. And that's something which younger trainers, especially Shane Mcguigan and a lot of other younger trainers, do seem to have, is a focus on the mental side of boxing, not just preparing you physically and acting as though you can take care of the mental stuff yourself, but really getting into the fighter's mind. And it's not only younger trainers, don't get it twisted. Plenty of trainers from the past have been very, very good with the mental side of it as well. Costamado surely was a master at understanding the psychology of a fighter. But yeah, a lot of these new breed of trainers in the United Kingdom anyway, they have an emphasis and a focus on the mental aspect of boxing. A lot of them have backgrounds in sports psychology and stuff like that. I'm not sure if these two do, but I know, for example, I think Adam Booth, I know he's not a young guy now, but when he first came onto the scene with David Haye, I believe he had a background in sports psychology and whatnot. So, you know, could these guys be in the same kind of mode as an Adam Booth in terms of their approach? Maybe not necessarily technical approach, but from the psychological side of boxing. And the reason another reason I compare Ben Davison to Shane Mcguigan is because Ben Davison is so young. Because being this young, training such experienced fighters, you're going to get people who ask questions. Is this guy really the man for the job? Does he have enough experience? Wouldn't this fighter be better off with an older trainer? Whereas Shane Mcguigan has answered all those questions. You know, he's proven that he is a good trainer. The work that he's done with Carl Frampton, the work that he's done with George Groves has been exemplary. So he's a guy who's really overcome a lot of the doubters. And you know, the proof is in the pudding. The proof in the pudding is in the eating, and so far, Shane Mcguigan has proved. Will Ben Davison go on to do the same thing? Will he be maybe like the new Shane Mcguigan and follow in those kind of footsteps? Another thing that Shane Mcguigan says in this interview, another interview I recommend on Boxing Social, they're doing a tremendous job. Another thing he talked about here were a few things that are interesting. One thing he talked about was when he was training George Groves for, I think, the Chudinov fight. It was one of the big fights anyway. George Groves came into training camp and said, what are we doing different, you know, for this big fight? Because it's a world title or whatever. What are we doing different? And Shane Mcguigan said, we're not doing anything different. We're actually going to drop out your run on Saturday. So you actually be doing less in this camp than you were in the last camp. And Groves didn't understand it. He was like, what are you talking about, Les? This is a big fight. What do you mean I'm dropping out my run? What are you talking about? He said, yeah, we're going to be dropping out a day of training during this training camp. And he said, basically the rationale behind it is when you're doing these back-to-back camps, you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to deplete your energy stores if you keep on doing the same level of training back to back to back without much of a rest in between camps. So for that reason, he dropped out a day of training for that particular camp. And these are the kind of methods that make sense to me, because a lot of trainers think there's a one-size-fits-all method to training fighters, and they think it's all about training as hard as possible for as long as possible, as many hours a day as possible. This is the mindset that a lot of trainers come with. Now, some fighters might be able to respond to that type of training positively from a physical sense, but a lot of other fighters will respond negatively. And I've talked before at length about overtraining, about how when I was boxing, I used to go absolutely crazy sometimes with the training to the point where I was completely, depleted. So I'd be training 4 or 5 weeks, twice a day, extremely intense training. And by the 5th and 6th week, I was so tired that I couldn't even do stuff that I was doing in the 1st and 2nd week. Yeah, and at that point is when you're supposed to taper off. Imagine being in that condition when you're so knackered by the 5th and 6th week and then going straight into a fight. It's no good, is it? You're completely depleted. And sometimes from the training that hard, I would need at least a week. And a lot of, most training camps do this. They have the fighter training until they can't train no more. And then they have a week or sometimes 10 days of tapering down, they call it, right? Where they allow their body's energy to, recover and recuperate. But it's getting the timing of the training camp perfect. That's the trick. That's the key. Because if you mistime it, you'll have a fighter in the ring who hasn't recovered sufficiently to be at his best, to be at his sharpest. You see, so you have to time when you bring the fighter to his peak correctly, so that you get him peaking while he's in the ring in the fight, and he doesn't peak too early, like when he's in the gym, and then he'll be on a downward slope by the time he gets into the into the fight. So I found this many times is training too hard, particularly if I was training non-stop 12 weeks or something. I would definitely have to take at least a 2 or 3 week break, because I'd be absolutely knackered. Like, I would have no energy left, and it would take me a long time to recover from all the training. And again, that's something Shane Mcguigan was talking about here, is not doing too much. Sometimes doing too much training is actually worse than doing too little training. This type of thinking, based upon experience, based upon looking at the fighter's reaction, looking at how the fighter's body reacts to the training. This is very important, rather than just thinking you know it all, and regardless of what the fighter is showing you in terms of a downturn in his physical capabilities, a downturn in his physical performance, regardless of what he's showing you in terms of a downturn, you continue pushing on with ridiculous levels of training and pushing him through, and it'll be all right on fight night. It won't necessarily be all right on fight night. I think even Ahura Davis talked about that in one of his videos. It'll be all right on fight night. No, it won't be. Was it Ahura Davis? It was some other fighter anyway. He was talking about their process of going through training camp and eventually being in the ring and not feeling good at all during training camp, but thinking to themselves it'll be all right on fight night, and it wasn't. Right. But anyway, back to Ben Davison. Yeah, I'm certainly not dismissing Ben Davison, because I think some people have suggested or some people have implied that that's what I was suggesting with my videos about Ben Davison. Not at all. I'm not dismissing him. He may prove to be one of the best trainers in the world. I hope he does. The world of boxing needs as many top trainers as it can get. So nothing but the best for Ben Davison. I'm just asking the questions, as I say, that a lot of other people are asking. So, perhaps he could turn out to be the new Shane Mcguigan, or even better. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll go the other way. We'll just have to find out. But as I say, based upon what he said in this interview, he seems to have his head in the right place. He seems to be switched on mentally, at least to some extent. It wasn't as in-depth as the Shane Mcguigan interview, where you got a lot more out of Shane Mcguigan in terms of his thought process and what have you. But yeah, you never know. With Ben Davison, he might turn out to be one of these up-and-coming, very bright young trainers. So who will go on to have a lot of success. So we'll see. Have a watch of the videos, as I say, and let me know what you think. Just before I finish, one thing that Shane Mcguigan also said, which was interesting, is that David Haye, in his opinion, came in too light for the Tony Bellew rematch. And he basically suggests that him coming in as light as he did diminished his punch resistance, which was the reason he wasn't able to take Tony Bellew's shots as well in the rematch. There could be some truth to that, but I've always felt like losing weight can diminish your punch resistance if you lose it too quickly. It's not so much the act of losing weight, it's the speed in which you lose the weight. It's the energy stores that you have to deplete in order to get all that weight off. All right. Or sometimes it's the calories that you have to cut, which leave you with far less energy when you're trying to cut a certain amount of weight, when you're trying to lose a certain amount of weight. You have to cut so much calories that you don't feel as strong because you ain't got those calories in your body. But once you adjust to less calories, and it can take a process of weeks or months, once your body adjusts to functioning on less calories, you can find yourself strong again. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but a lot of people, it will work that way. So I don't necessarily think that weight alone is going to improve your punch resistance or going to deplete your punch resistance, but it's how you lose the weight, basically. How quickly you lose it, how safely you lose it, or how quickly or safely you put it on. But yeah, we did see David Haye certainly react in a different way in the rematch to Tony Bellew's punches than he did in the first fight. But then again, maybe Tony Bellew was punching harder in the rematch. Tony Bellew certainly believes he was. Also, Shane Mcguigan doesn't believe Tony Bellew is a top level heavyweight. He doesn't think Tony Bellew could beat Tyson Fury. He doesn't even think that Tony Bellew is an elite cruiserweight. He thinks all the top guys at cruiserweight would beat him, all the top guys at heavyweight, which I would tend to go along with, actually. But then again, Bellew has proved me wrong before. Maybe he proved me wrong again. Bellew is one of them kind of guys. He's a habitual overachiever. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let me not babble on for too long about these particular interviews. Go have a watch of them for yourselves and let me know what you think. Is Ben Davison the new Shane Mcguigan? Is he going to have that level of success? Let me know what you think in the comment section, people. It's Hatman, I'm out.